Hey, it's Craig, and this video is a how-to video that will go along with my post. And the title for this discussion is going to be looking at our ActiveRain stats. So as we're blogging, we put blog posts out there, and over time you want to go back and look and see how those posts are performing. You want to see how many views you're getting. You'll be able to see also how many likes and different comments that are on the stats. So let's dive into this discussion so we'll be able to learn both about the stats page, as well as we're going to take a tangent look at Excel, and we're going to continuous exploration of Excel and some of the features in there that will help you in cases like this, because learning Excel will help you not only with stats but all kinds of different things. So let's go ahead and start into this discussion. So the first thing we want to do is, how do we get to our stats page? Well, you go up to the top right and you see your avatar. You drop down into that menu and you'll see the stats is one of the items listed in the menu. And you can see on the stats page, it'll show by most recent post at the top, and then the stats that it'll give you are the views, the comments, the likes. Short URL clicks don't really have much use anymore, but the other stats are useful and interesting. So if, let's say, you can see the data was posted as well. You can sort by any one of these headers. So if I click on the views header, it will sort by that, bringing the most viewed post to the top. So you can see here 22,000 views for me on this post back in 2012. And then it descends down by the most views. So this is all interesting. You could sort by likes and comments as well. You can search up here by the title if you knew that you wanted to look for a post that was written about photos. For me, I write lots of different posts about photos. It would show me just the posts about photos. Now, we're going to take that concept into Excel as well, because we want to be able to search our posts by keywords. And so we'll be able to do that both in Excel, but you can do it right here on this page as well. But you see, in order to dive into this stats a little bit more, you can see in this instance here, if I reset this and delete that and then search for basically all posts, you'll see at the bottom here, you've got these linked numbers here of pages. So when you have been blogging for a long time, I've been blogging for a long time, I don't post nearly as many times as others on the site, but even so, there's still lots and lots of pages. But when we take it to the next step, we're going to export this to Excel. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you. Well, actually, let me show you what we can accomplish by doing that. This is the end result of exporting to Excel, and I've formatted this into, so you can see all my posts here. It's like a master list of all my posts. But in Excel, I'm able to do some interesting things, such as create this bar chart so I can visually see how my posts are doing. I have a link over here that I can jump to any one of these posts by clicking on the link. And I can also see the same thing that I saw on the other side, the views and the comments and so forth. So let's go ahead and see how you can create this Excel view with your own list of posts. So let me go ahead and minimize this. Going back to the ActiveRain page here, and we're up at the top right of the chart here, it says Export Results. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And that's going to, you'll see it's going to download what's called a CSV file. CSV stands for comma separated values. That's basically just saying it's going to create a text file. Excel can read it, and if I'll bring up a notepad here and I'll show you basically what a CSV file is. It's basically, it just takes that data and puts it into just plain text format like you see here, and then each of the rows represents a record like we saw, but in that row, the commas, it's a CSV file. The commas separate what's going to become the cells in Excel. So each of those commas says go to the new cell. So a comma separated value is something that we can open in Excel. So if I just did that here, I'm going to go ahead to my downloads folder. I'm going to see the CSV file. I'm going to double click it. That's going to go ahead and open that up in Excel. And when you first come into Excel, you'll see it looks a little bit clumsy, but this will clean up very quickly. For instance, if I take my A column here and grab it by the edge up at the top, I can drag this over so that I can actually see my title better. And I can do that with each of my columns here. Like here, the published date. I'm going to make that column a little bit wider. Now I can actually see everything that's in those columns. The next thing I would normally do is I would convert this into a table. And a table, if I go back to here, this is a table. A table has, in Excel, it's how it refers to it, is a table. It will actually format it in a nice readable format. You can see it's doing the alternate row color shading here. So it's got blue on every second row, which helps when you have a lot of data. This helps to be able to read the data more easily. You can see, I guess, side by side here, the difference. This one doesn't have that feature. This one does. But you'll notice with the table also, at the top of each column is this. It'll put this button here, and this button will pop down a menu of different things we can do, such as sorting and filtering, which we are going to do. But it also means that as you scroll down, that header row stays up here, so that you can, as you get to the lower parts of your data set, you can still see what those headings are. So this is all part of the features of what you get when you have a table. So a table is a very useful thing. But what we have to do, one thing with ActiveRain, we have to do one little cleanup exercise, and that is, it's possible, and this happened in my case, and it might happen in yours as well, but if you use, in the post title, if you use commas in the title, that's going to confuse the CSV format, because the title has a comma, and yet the commas are used in the CSV format to separate into the cells in Excel. So in this post here I had themes, comma, signatures, comma, and profile pages. So those commas are going to take my title and split it up into additional cells that I didn't want it to, and that's going to cause a little bit of a problem. So let me jump back to Excel and show you what I mean. So in Excel, I'm going to scroll down a bit until I see where this problem is occurring here. So here's a case in point on row number 66. Do you see what's happening here? Is that I had a comma in my title, so the comma was pushing the next part of the title over to here, and then the URL is out of sync with the column that it's supposed to be in. So if you have this condition, you can clean it up pretty quickly. You can, if you wanted to, you can put the rest of the text over here. You just have to type it in. But then what you can do after you put the rest of the title over here is you're going to select the rest of this row over here, and then grab it by any one of the edges. That will initiate, what you can do with it is move it. So if I grab it by the edge, I can move it over to the left, and it's going to say, hey, there's something already in that cell, do you want to replace it? And that's okay, I'm going to go ahead and replace it. But now you see it push that URL over into the column where it's supposed to be, as well as the rest of the data. So if you scroll down, you'll see this happens every once in a while with me. So I could come in here and I could type in what it was supposed to be, because that got pushed over into the next cell. Well, here's the one that we had before, signatures and profile pages. So I could just type in what it was, how the ending had supposed to go. But that, see, that pushed it over 2 cells. So then I'm going to go ahead and take this over here, grab it by one of the edges, and drag it over where it's supposed to go, and say, yeah, that's okay. And now that data is where it's supposed to be. So if I just scroll down through my, you can see this one should have been here. And then I'm going to go ahead and select this again and move it over. Fortunately, I only had like 3 instances where this happened. If I go all the way to the bottom of my list there, I made it all the way down. So now that I've cleaned up my data, I can come back up to the top. I'm going to go ahead, just click somewhere inside of the, like a not on the outside, but click somewhere on the inside. And then I'm going to use the shortcut Control-T, Command-T on a Mac, Control-T on Windows. And what it will do is it will automatically sense where the block of data exists. It's gonna put a little outline around that and says, this is what Excel's telling me, this is what I see, this is the data block that I'm going to use, and I'm going to leave this checkbox on that says my table has headers, and then click OK. And what it will do is that header row is now, it tells it what each column is. It's the title, it's the views, and so forth. And you see we put those buttons on there. And I can use those buttons now to do actions. So for instance, if I wanted to say the views column, and I wanted to sort from the largest to the smallest, now that's going to bring my posts in that order of the most views to the least views. Or I could sort by publish date from newest to oldest. Or I could sort by A to Z on my titles. And so those buttons give you that sorting feature. But it also gives you the filtering feature, because let's say I wanted to search for any time that I wrote about profile. So I could type in the keyword that I'm looking for, hit enter, and that narrows that Excel list down just to anything that uses profile in the title. Or I could go back here and I could clear the filter, and that will reset back to the full list. And I could come back and I could say, well, let's see, what post did I write about photos? So I'll type photo, hit enter, and these are all the posts that I had written about photos or photography. But that's how you can use the filter function. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the setting that says clear the filter now. That'll go back to all. And let's go back to sort by newest to oldest on the dates. So this is back to the default view. So do you see how the table in Excel is very useful? Not only makes it easier to read, but it also gives you the ability to sort and filter. Now, the one last thing that I wanted to highlight in this little video today is the column B here, you can see, is the URL to the post. And it would be nice as you're looking at this master list to be able to jump to the actual post, like if you want to go back and read it, or save a copy of it to PDF or something like that. So unfortunately, when you import the CSV file, this is not a clickable link. So if I wanted to jump to any one of these posts, what I would have to do is double-click into the cell, and then I could highlight that, and I could copy it, and then I could go over to my browser and paste it, and that would get me to that post, but it's not the most convenient thing. So my recommendation in order to work around this is to come up to the C column. I'm going to right-click on the C column, and I'm going to insert a new column before C. So I have a new column here. And then I'm going to use a simple formula in Excel called hyperlink. So every formula, if you saw my previous video, has to start with an equal sign. So I'm going to say equal. I'm going to start typing in the word hyperlink. And you'll see it drops down this list here of different functions that I could choose. So I see it's highlighting the word hyperlink. That's the one I want. I'm going to hit tab. And then that will go ahead and type in the rest of the word hyperlink for me. So this is the formula for hyperlink. So it says equal hyperlink, and then I'm going to tell it the cell that I want to get the hyperlink from. So that we talked about this in the previous lesson. The rows are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this. The columns are numbered A, B, C, D. So I'm going to get I'm going to turn what's in the cell B2 over here, this is B2, into a hyperlink. So if I put B2 in there, that will say, turn that text into a hyperlink. And then in the function, I have the option. The second part of the function says, what's the friendly name, or we call it the hyperlink text. What's the text that you actually want to see? So looking at a big long URL is not all that interesting. So let's just go ahead and put in quotes the word link. So every one of these texts will have just the word link that I can click on. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off my formula and hit enter. Now, because it's in a table, it automatically duplicated that formula all the way down to the bottom. That's kind of a smart feature. I like that, made it easier. Normally you would have to fill that all the way down as a second step, but because it's a table, it just did that automatically. So now I'm going to bring this column over here. I'm going to go up to the top here, and maybe I'll say hyperlink is the heading. But each of these now would be a link to a clickable link. So let's say I wanted to do jump to this post here. I can click on this link. It will take me right to that post. So you can see that's a useful column now, because every one of those links is clickable. This one over here, I would have to copy and paste. So now the B column, I can't delete the B column because this one is referring to it, but I can hide it. So if I come up to the top header here, right click on this and say hide, that will hide the whole column. And now my table is nice and cleaned up here. I got this nice tidy column here of links that I could click any one of those links to jump to that post. But there's my table. You can see it's pretty much coming together. I'm going to do one more thing here to wrap this up. Some of the advantages of having all of this in Excel. You can see already it's starting to shape up. So the last thing I want to show you, it relates to conditional formatting. Conditional formatting is a way, if I go to my Home tab up here, you see the conditional formatting is a way that I can visually represent my data in order to better understand what's happening with that data, right? So here we just have a whole bunch of numbers, and you have to kind of study it to see the difference between, a post that had 160 views versus a post that had 2,275 views. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this column here, and I'm going to use the conditional formatting tool to enable it to be able to show you visually what's happening with those numbers. So you can color code them, or what I like in this instance is to go ahead and use the data bars feature. So it's going to put like a bar chart in that cell, in every one of those cells. It represents how big that number is. So I'm going to pick on data bars, and then you can pick the different colors that you want, if orange or blue or red or whatever color. And I'm going to go ahead and pick this yellow-ish color here, and or it says orange, but it's orangish yellow. I'm going to go ahead and pick on that, and that's going to drop in. You see, every one of those numbers now is represented by a bar. So the post that has the most views will have the bar that goes all the way across here. These two, they seem like they made it all the way across. And then relative to that, the rest of the cells are going to highlight a bar that goes relative to how far they go compared to the one that had the most views. So this column then would make more sense, I think, if I widen it out here like this, so that those bars become more exaggerated a little bit. And now you can visually see how your posts are doing, and you can see, obviously the newer posts won't have as many views as the older posts, but if I go down into this a bit, you can see the difference between how the posts are performing, and certain posts are going to stand out more than others. So this one, for instance, you can see stands out more than the rest. This is my Google Photos post, one of my key posts on the site. You can see that's been performing quite well. But as you look at your own posts, you can see which ones are performing better than the others. And again, when you're looking at data like this, you can want to look at what performs well, what didn't perform well, and then the ones that do well, you could say, well, maybe I should do more posts like that, because those are the ones that people want to see. But anyway, looking at your data, you'll be able to analyze and perceive how well your blogging is performing. But I think that's a very useful thing to do. And this is all enabled because we took it out of the ActiveRain, we exported to CSV file, we brought it into Excel, and then we're able to do these additional things such as creating the table. So it gives us all these additional features, as well as doing this conditional formatting feature, which gives us a visual representation of the data. I might even just take this column here, and I'll go to center justify that text there, because otherwise the text is all the way over on this edge here. So I think maybe that makes it a little bit nicer, so you can see the numbers right in the middle. But hopefully you learned a couple things there, digging into your ActiveRain stats page, as well as jumping over into Excel and getting some confidence in working in Excel and seeing what a useful tool it is. Now you might say, well, besides the stats on a blog, what else could I use the table for? You might consider another thing that I like to use tables for often is, let's say you go to your banking website, you log in and you look at your banking website. Often you can go to the transactions page on your banking site and look for an option that says export to file. And you'll probably find an export to CSV file option there. And you could probably set the date range. So you could say, I want to download all the transactions for this year. So you could download that as a CSV file, bring it into Excel, convert it into a table, just as the same as we did here. And then you could have all these tools, such as you could search for, it wouldn't say title, but it would say perhaps payee or something like that. And you could search for, you maybe want to filter and find all the transactions you had to a particular payee. And then it would narrow that list down just to those transactions. So that's another useful thing that you can use tables for in Excel. Now here's the last point that I'll leave you with today is we're still in a CSV file. And a CSV file is not a native Excel file. So all this formatting that we did and formulas that we did, we're going to definitely want to save that. So under the File menu, you're going to want to do the Save As command, and you're going to want to change this from a CSV format to an Excel workbook format. And then you can leave it the same name. That's fine. But you can go ahead and put in whatever name that you want here, and then click on Save. And now that file will be saved in Excel format. So that you'll be sure to maintain all of this formatting that we did, as well as the formulas and so forth. So you don't want to lose that, so that you can open up that file again later when you want to look at it. So I hope you learned something today. I'm glad that you joined me for this short video. 20 minutes of your time, hopefully worthwhile, and I appreciate that you joined me, and make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube as well as my ActiveRain blog. All right, see you all soon. Bye.